Welcome back to the grand finale of Microsoft Flight Simulator A to Z series. Over the last few months we have traveled across the entire simulation alphabet, covering everything from autopilot to yaw dampers, and today we have finally reached our ultimate destination, the letter Z. Now you might think that letter Z is a tough one for aviation, but it actually gives us one of the most critical yet misunderstood concepts in flight planning: zero fuel weight, or Zulu Foxtrot Whiskey. If you ever loaded up an airliner in Microsoft Flight Simulator running into performance calculation errors, or wondered why your plane handles like a brick on takeoff, this video is for you. Today we're breaking down exactly what ZFW is, why it keeps your wings from structurally failing, and how to configure it step by step using both beginner-friendly stock features and high-fidelity add-ons. But I also have a surprise for you, but you need to watch till the end to figure out what the surprise is. Let's get started. Let's start with the absolute basics. What actually is zero fuel weight? Well, the name gives it away. It is the total weight of our aircraft, including the empty airframe itself, the crew, your passengers, and all of their luggage, but with zero usable fuel in the tanks. Think of it like a pickup. Your truck has a total maximum weight limit for legal driving, but it also has a completely separate weight limit specifically for how much heavy stuff you can throw into the band, based entirely on the chassis and suspension strength. In an aircraft, we care immensely about where weight is placed: passengers, catering, and heavy cargo containers. Because of this, manufacturers give us a strict structural limit called maximum zero fuel weight, also known as Mike Zulu Foxtrot Whiskey. This is the absolute maximum weight you can cram into the cabin and cargo holds before you pump a single drop of fuel into the aircraft. But why does this limit exist? Why can't we pack the cabin full of extra cargo if our total weight is still under the maximum allowed takeoff limit? It all comes down to an engineering concept called wing banding relief. When an airplane flies, the wings are the things creating lift, pulling upward. Meanwhile, that heavy fuselage, full of passengers and cargo, is pulling straight downwards due to the gravity. This creates an immense amount of structural stress right where the wing connects to the body, the wing root. If the fuselage is severely overloaded and you hit a patch of unexpected rough turbulence, that violent upward snap of the wings could easily cause structural failure. But watch what happens when we fill the wings with fuel. Because aircraft fuel tanks are located inside the hollow wings, the weight of the fuel pushes down on the wings structure itself, directly fighting against the upward lift. It actually relieves the bending stress on the wing roots. That's why any extra payload past your maximum zero fuel weight must be in the form of fuel inside the wings. It balances the physical forces perfectly. To see how this affects your flights, let's start at the very beginning using the simulator's built-in world map flight planner. This is the perfect starting place for anyone getting into airliners. To get to the flight planner, we need to go to the free flight, and then you can do two things. Either you can do it like this, you simply select an airport from your list, or you, I'd say, type one from your list, KJFK. And then you've got a straight line, and then you can click start flight. But then you will fly a VFR flight with an airliner, which is not that realistic. So what you need to change in that case is make sure that you set this to IFR, and then you can adjust the flight plan by simply pressing find route. This is the, I would say, the easy way. I'm not going to focus too much on this because this is, I would say, this video of course focuses on zero fuel weight and not on the flight planning. But once you've done this, you could simply say, hey, I'm happy with this, and click start flight. Now, of course, we didn't have a look at the values under the hood, but what will happen if I open the EFB again, it will simply do a lot of things for you. First of all, we've got the zero fuel weight, right? The zero fuel weight is the aircraft weight without the fuel, as already mentioned. In this case, you can see that there are no passengers, no cargo, there's a block fuel of 89 lbs, and then we can see the maximum takeoff weight, the empty weight, the estimated landing weight, and the ramp weight, which is, I would say, all fine. You can adjust the view if you want, but for now I will leave this as is because we're talking about the zero fuel weight. However, keep in mind that changing these values, especially these values, will impact the zero fuel weight. And to show you that it changes is if I add passengers here, 140 for example, you can see that the zero fuel weight increases. That makes sense because every passenger is, I would say, weighs something. You also can see that the total payload increases and you can adjust this. If you adjust it like this, then you can see that it will automatically adjust the LBS for the cargo. So if you want to do it the easy way, you can use this nice slider. If you want to do it manually, you can do this. So that's the easy way. And then once you're done, you simply press load payload and cargo, which means it loads both the payload, the cargo and the view. And then you can simply press start flight. So that's the most easiest way. So if you want to take it one step further, you can of course also try it out yourself. And that's by pressing the configure option. The configure option allows you to play a little bit more with these settings. You can see that I can change the let's say passenger seats, for example, to 75. I can set the cargo to 18. And then if I press the E from India, I'm also able to see the zero fuel weight. So I'm kind of able to measure myself if I'm doing it correctly. And that's, I would say, nice, but it's, I would say, maybe a step too far for you if you start doing this. But this is how it works. So two ways. The first way is, I will go back to the flight planner, is using this option. This will automatically calculate the zero fuel weight for you. If you go too high, it will also likely warn you. Then press the load option and then load the aircraft and then you're good to go. So that's how it works. Now for the second part, we're going to look inside the aircraft. You can see we're nicely parked at an airport. I already did some things because else we need to go to the full checklist. But I stopped at the most important thing. So let me go inside the aircraft. Because if you open the EFB, you can go to the aircraft and then you can go to the checklist where you find all checklists. For those who don't know that, then now you know it. And you can press these eye icons to zoom into specific parts. In this case, I want to calculate the EFB, or from the EFB, and insert into the FMS, the weight and the balance data. So if I hide this one, I can either press the cross or the tab. And then I can see that the payload. So the payload, maximum 186, maximum cargo 18397. And I can see the maximum view is also set. But you can see that this was not, I would say, correctly set. At least not from the flight plan. So let's first correct that. So I'm going to go to the flight planner. I go to the weight and here I can see, okay, hey, I got 180 passengers. So let's first adjust that. You can either do it by this or you can press the option and then adjust it. Oh, see, here we go, 180 and then hit enter. The same thing I can do for the cargo, right, which is 817 LBS. So if it's an LBS, you need to kind of recalculate it, and that could be a challenge. But luckily there are always nice tools on the internet which I would say will help you. So I will find it as we speak, LBS 2 kg, and then I simply calculate it. If you use, for example, Bing or Google, they already have an automatic calculator which calculates for you. So 817 LBS is 370 kilograms roughly. So let me do that. 370. Oh, I said 370, not 970. So that's done, and you can see that the block view is set to 90 LBS, so I can also calculate that. 90, let's say 100, just to be sure. But we don't have to do that because we know that the zero fuel weight is always without the view, right? So that's always a recommendation. First set your passenger load, your cargo, etc., and then add the view. So in this case, 100 is 45 kilograms of view. Not really much, but it's also a very short flight, right? So, and then I close it and I press apply, and then you can say instant fast. Or now for those who paid attention, there's also the enter zero fuel weight here. So if I do that and if I add the zero fuel weight from here, right? So the 129614, That's 58791 kilograms. So let me type it, 58791. I'll make it 2 because it's .92. And then I press Z, 0 fuel weight. What you then will see is that it automatically starts dividing the packs, which are the passengers and the cargo. So there are two options. Either define them using these options and then press apply load, or you can say enter 0 fuel weight, but then it will roughly, let's say, divide the cargo and the passengers. It's really up to you. It's really up to you. I would say there's no right or wrong in this case. In this case, we can see that also this part has now been populated. We can see that the planned 0 fuel weight has been added, the fuel weight for the fuel weight itself, and then we also have the 0 fuel weight, center of gravity, etc. And some other options which are on the load sheet. From here you would be able to transfer it to the say FMS, but in most cases that won't work, at least not with this aircraft. So let's continue with that. Now we know this, we need to calculate the takeoff speed before we say go to the MCDU. So I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna say sync because that's the most easiest way. I'm gonna say calculate, but you can see, hey, it's unable to find the performance data. So it's unable to find the weight, and that's also really important because you need to enter the weight here. Because for some reason the sync button doesn't sync the weight in kilograms. And the easiest way again is to either say get it from the weight which we configured here, right? So 58728. That I would say that would be my recommendation to do, but it's up to you again. So let's add it. 58. What was it? Already forgot it. 587. 587.2. And then we're gonna press calculate option, and then you will see things are moving on. And then I can press it to the FMGS, which will automatically sync these values to the FMGS, which is easy because then you don't need to type it. Of course, you can always, would say, make notes of these and then do that yourself. It's really up to you. So it's always, would say, recommended to validate if it really has been configured. I'm not saying this, I would say, for a joke, because I would say what you will see is sometimes that it doesn't sync. So let's do that. So I'm going to go to the init page, which we already are. So I press init, you will see that we're here, and then I'm going to go to the perf page. And this is what I mean, right? So in this case, you can see that it didn't calculate it. So what I need to do is I need to push those values in manually, and that sometimes is a nightmare because navigating to the cockpit is not always easy. So let me do that like this. So 150152. So you can see that the values are there, but for some reason it didn't populate it. In some cases this works, but as you can see it doesn't work now. So we then need to manually put those values in. So the values behind that are, say, correct. So we can add it over here. And then we need to, of course, also have those other values. And that's why I say maybe it's better to write them down. 0.5 up. 0.5 up. Now it's good. And then the other things you can add them also. So the 58 is the flex. And then I'm going to confirm the data. Right, so it says takeoff data uplink. Well, that's fine for me. And I'm going to go to the next phase. And I'm going to continue with this. Now there's one additional thing which I would like to show you, and that's that you can manually also program the weight. If you go to the init page and then go to the next page, which we already did, you can also override these values by simply entering the numbers via the numeric pad. You can see that I can do it. 22.7. I'm putting values in which don't make sense, press the option over here. Let me try it again. And you can see that it accepts the values. So this is a little bit, I'd say, dangerous, of course. So I would recommend you to use either the EFB or maybe some other third-party tools to calculate this, and then would say add it to this page, because it makes sense to do it this way, because then you at least are sure that you've got enough fuel if you're flying from A to Z. With that said, let's have a look at a more complex aircraft. As mentioned, we're gonna take it a step further, because we're gonna use the FlyByWire A32NX and then look at how we can configure the zero fuel weight in this aircraft. In this aircraft it's mandatory, whereas in the previous it's nice if you do it, but if you don't do it, I would say the aircraft will still work. This high-fidelity airliner doesn't rely on Microsoft Flight Simulator menu sliders. Instead, you'll generate a realistic flight plan using a tool, for example like SimBrief. So I already, let's say, opened the FB, as you can see, and I already started SimBrief. You can add the SimBrief dispatch tool from here. That makes most sense, and it's also easy. Of course, you can also use their web tool, but then you need to switch between applications. So in this case, I'm gonna program a very quick flight. In this case, from the airport where we are, FlyByWire 123, 123. Then the let's search for it. O'Hara. Let's search for Chicago in that case. O'Hara, that's the one, and our destination is KJFK to make it easy. Well, irritating that the tab key doesn't go to the next screen. Then I need to make sure that I set the aircraft correctly, so I can either use the this one, but let me see if this is the correct one. Here you can see this is the incorrect one, right? Oh, this is the correct one. Here you can, FlyByWire, that's the correct one. Sorry for that. So make sure that you select the A320-200N and then select the FlyByWire one. And then based on that, you can scroll down. You can see that the details are here. If you want to make yourself easier, you can also do pounds, but that of course depends on what you prefer. You get the taxi time, which included the flight rules, and a lot of other things, including the fuel planning. This allows you to customize the fuel planning, but for now it's okay. This is the flight plan, which is fine. Then simply we press generate, and then it will generate the flight plan. This is how easy it is to generate the flight plan, but then I did it really quick and dirty. And if you look very closely, you will see already values in the load sheets, always in kilogram. You can see the passengers, 156. You can see the empty zero fuel weight, the empty takeoff weight, and also the maximum zero fuel weight and the maximum takeoff weight over here. Payload is being calculated, and that's of course the passengers and the cargo in this case. So that's the information which we need for now. Of course, I can do more things. I can adjust it if needed, but I can also scroll down where I would be able to see the OFP, and the OFP contains all the details which you need. So in this case, we're gonna jump inside the aircraft. So I'm gonna close the EFB. I'm gonna zoom into the aircraft, and then I'm gonna make sure that I load the correct flight plan, so I can click import SimBrief. And now you can see the fuel and the payload has been imported, which makes it easy for me. So I said it is complex, but actually this still makes it between brackets easy. You can still decide to configure it manually. In this case, you can see that the zero fuel weight is 58.7. You can see the cost index. All on this page you can see the simple values which you need. But of course you can also go to the more advanced settings, which are over here, right? These are the more advanced tools which allow you to, for example, calculate the takeoff weight, or sorry, the takeoff performance, the top of descent, landing. But you can also press this option, and that will automatically populate it for you, so you don't have to do all the things yourself. But that's of course on what you prefer. Now this has been done. You can see that the cargo has been loaded. Here it says outdated aircraft version. If you show this, then make sure that you select the correct version of the aircraft inside SimBrief, because this might be, let's say, incorrect. And here you also see that the different things, right? I can click on the services, but I also can click on the fuel, where I can see how the fuel is being divided. I can refuel if I want. I want to, let's say, refuel, and then it can do it either, say, manually, or I can say, hey, I want to do it instantly. And if I do it instantly, then it says ready to start, and then I can press play, and then it's refueling the aircraft. So that's how easy it can go. The same thing is for the payload. So for the payload, you can say adjust these numbers, of course, if you want. You can see that the planned value is this and the current weight is this, which means that it didn't load the aircraft. So you can see that GSX is enabled, which is another third-party add-on, which makes sure that the aircraft is being loaded correctly. But to do that, in my case, I will need to do it with GSX, but in your case, you can also decide to do it manually. This is GSX, as you can see. So it's active services. I can say, hey, I want to say request boarding. Then I can select Phoenix Logistics, fine for me. And then you see that the aircraft starts to board, and then values will change. If you don't want to use the GSX payload, you can also exclude it by disabling it into the settings menu if you want. But for now, I will, let's say, decide to leave it on. So here we go. And also make sure that the cargo is being loaded. Can do the same thing. Open GSX. Let's say, do that also. And then, do you want to board the crew? I want to board everyone. So you can see that GSX is also continuously developing, right? For those who didn't see GSX, you can see that it's continuously being, let's say, improved. Besides that, you can of course say also request the refueling, the catering, etc. Because I didn't mention it, but also the catering does cost, I would say, weight. So you need to keep it in mind. So once you've done this, you can of course go to that system, and as you can see, system has already started. And I need to go to the init page, and the init page I can do two things. I can either manually populate all these things, or if you want to do the easy way, you can press this option. So in this case, let's assume that I want to do it manually, because I would say you might prefer to do that, which is okay for me. Then you can open the EFB and then simply use the numbers over here, right? So I can say FBW 123, which of course is a fake number, but that's the flight number. Let me move a little bit here. I can from to, so KORD to KJFK. Here we go. Let's say none. Okay, fine. Then I can add the cost index, etc. Because those are also important, right? How few or how efficient should the aircraft fly? And that's also an important one, which you really need to think about, right? Normally the flight plan does contain all the values, but if you can't find it easy in the flight plan, there's always that, I would say, side trick, which is go back to the EFB. If you go to this page, you can even sort of see it more easy, because you can see it's 8.7 is 0 fuel weight and 10 is the cost index. So that's, now I've got my answers already. 10 cost index. And what was the cruise altitude? 390. And also make sure that you have the temperature. For now we're gonna, let's say, add a temperature of 24. Let's do that for now. But normally you would need to prepare a little bit more. Maybe that's another good idea for another video. Flight number, you can add it. I can have the flight number FBW123. And now we're here. So this is the first part, and then you can go to the next page, and here you see what's different compared to the default A320 in Flight Simulator 2024, because these values are now not populated, so you will definitely need to populate them yourself. So this is the value we need for this ZFWCG, so 32.78. And again, if you would say go up here, you will find 58.7 is the 0 fuel weight, right? The 0 fuel weight is also mentioned here because it's simply 58.7. So 58.7, remember it in 32.78. 58.7 and 32.8. Oh, forgot the dot. And then simply press the options over here. Now, once you've done this, you can see that the view planning comes into play again. So you can press this and it will simply automatically do the block view. and then you can confirm it, and now you program the zero fuel weight as well as the zero fuel weight center of gravity inside the A320 from FlyByWire. So you can see a little bit more steps compared to the default A320, but still I think it's doable. By the way, there's also good documentation from the A32NX. I will link it in the description of this video, because it really describes it step by step how you can program this, I would say, nice computer completely, say manually, including the values here, including all the other options. So super nice to use. And with that, we officially completed our Microsoft Flight Simulator A-Z series. From autopilot to zero fuel weight, we conquered every single letter of the alphabet to unlock hidden mechanics of flight simulation. But as already mentioned at the start of the video, I've got a surprise for you. Because there are far more topics to discuss for each of those letters, I decided to do another round of the Microsoft Flight Simulator A-Z series. So have a look at the community, because there will be a poll very soon about which topic you want to cover for the letter A. So hope to see you back next video in the Microsoft Flight Simulator A-Z series, cycle number 2.